Hi there, my name's Aaron Short and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm checking out the Fender Preverb pedal. So what is the Fender Preverb pedal? Well, it's a preamp and a reverb in one, as the name suggests. And at the start of this video, you heard me playing the Bag's Anthem pickup, both through the pedal and without the pedal. So what is it doing? What is a preamp and why do we need one? Here's the thing, some acoustic guitar pickups are passive and have no preamp. Some acoustic guitar pickups are active and have a preamp. For example, the Bag's Anthem has a built-in preamp. It has a battery in there. The Fender Acoustasonic guitars have preamps. They're rechargeable. The K&K pickup has no preamp. It's passive. Now, if you have a passive pickup, you almost certainly need a preamp of some kind. If you have an active pickup, sometimes you don't need another preamp. Also, it depends what you're plugging into. If you're plugging into a mixing console, it has preamps built in. If you're plugging into an acoustic amp, it has preamps built in. And if you plug into your computer audio interface, it has preamps built in. So why do you even need a preamp? Well, first of all, if you have a passive pickup, you've got inconsistency there, right? You might show up to a gig and plug into a mixing console that has a different impedance to another, and that could change the sound of your pickup. If you carry a pedal like this around with you at all times, you're always going to have the same input impedance, and then you send that signal out to the front of house, your guitar will always sound the same. I think that's really important. On the flip side of that, if you have an active preamp in your guitar already, you may still require an additional preamp depending on the quality of the preamp in your guitar. And also, the preamp pedals often have additional features, as this one does, that you may find desirable. I recently had a comment from a viewer who's looking for a preamp for their Bag's Anthem right now. It's worth noting that the Anthem SL has a higher output than the Anthem Stage or the regular Anthem, and you may require an additional preamp in certain situations. So what Fender have done here is made a fairly compact pedal, which is a preamp and a reverb in one with some additional features, and we'll go through those in some detail. First of all, let's take a closer look and see what's on the pedal. All right, so we've got the same design here as the Fender Smolder pedal. I really like the design of these pedals. They're very rugged and well made. This is all metal here, and the size is nice too. You've got 2-foot switches and a bunch of controls. Now, first of all, we're plugging our guitar in here, and this is important. This is a preamp. It has an input impedance. The input impedance of this pedal is just under 1 megohm, and actually the K&K, which is a very popular passive pickup, suggests a 1 megohm impedance. This is slightly less than that. I think it works great for a K&K or similar passive pickup, and that feature alone is really important. If you have an active pickup already, it doesn't matter because your guitar is already correcting the impedance to start with. So you plug in here, 2-foot switches, mute or reverb. Now it's funny, when I took this out of the box, I thought to myself, I never use a mute button on my pedals. I don't need it. But during the making of this demo today, I've used that mute button a lot to mute and unplug and do different things. Also, if you're on stage and have feedback issues, you can just hit that mute button, or you can mute the pedal when you're changing guitars, things like that. It's very useful to have. Then we have the reverb button here, so we can turn the reverb on or off. Now above that, we have our controls. You can see they're lit up, and I love this about the Fender pedals. They put these LEDs in there so you can see where your settings are on a dark stage. I've just made a small pedal board, and some of the pedals are so hard to see, even in a light room. It's crazy. But you can turn it off. At the back, there's a switch, and you can turn those LEDs off if you need to. But I love them. I want to have them turned on. This is powered by the mains at the back here. You do not have a battery compartment. I love the battery compartment on the other series of these pedals, like the Smolder. I kind of wish this had it as well. I know a lot of people out there like to have the convenience of battery power, but I feel like this pedal is designed to be put onto a pedal board and powered with other pedals. And it's also worth noting that it does not come with a power supply, and I think that's the reason. Actually, it's interesting. A lot of pedals these days, like phones, are not coming with power supplies. I will put my affiliate link below to both the product and the power supply that I'm using. Okay, the first control we have is the gain control. This is really important. You need to play your guitar as loud as you're going to play it on stage, remembering that once you start a gig, you tend to play and sing louder, right? Well, at least I do. So play your guitar as loud as you're going to possibly play it on the gig, and don't hold back. You want that peak LED to flash red. That means it's starting to clip, and then back it off slightly so it's not clipping. Maybe if you illuminate that at your loudest, absolute loudest volume, it's okay, but you don't want it to be on at all times. To the left of that, we have our polarity switch, plus or minus. This is really useful on a loud stage. If you've got feedback, the first thing to do is to flip that switch. It may take the feedback away. If you're playing with headphones or something in low volume, you might want to flick that to see which one gives you the most bass response. So that's a useful tool there, especially on a loud stage. To the left of that is a control that I love, especially for certain body style pickups like the K&K. The notch control is really useful. What it does is you turn it here and it will just take away a really, really narrow frequency band to remove the frequency that's feeding back. You want to grab your guitar on stage and play and let ring all the notes on the bottom here, like your low E, your A. I find it's often the B, the C sharp, and the D. Let them ring out, and if they start to feed back, keep it held down, turn that control until it goes away, and you're done. Another really useful tool on a loud stage. I'm a big fan of notch controls. I think they're really useful. To the left of that, we've got our tilt control. This is your EQ. It's a one knob EQ. I personally like to have a bass, middle, treble, adjustable frequencies, maybe even a 7 or 10 band EQ for my acoustic guitars. But I know that a lot of people don't want that. The way it works is that in neutral, it's flat. And then when you turn it to the right, it increases the treble and decreases the bass, resulting in a brighter sound. If you turn it to the left, it increases the bass and decreases the treble, resulting in a warmer, more bassy sound. So it really is effective, and I'll show that to you in a second. Along the top, we've got 1, 2, 3 reverbs. That is a room, a hall, and a plate. And you've got level, which is the amount of the reverb, not the level of the guitar. That's the level of the reverb. Damping, which makes it a duller sound when you turn it to the right, in case you want the reverb to have less presence. And a time control, that's how long the reverb lasts for. So you might want to turn the level down, the time up. You'll get a very quiet but long reverb tail. Or you might want to turn the level up and the time down. You'll get a short, louder reverb tail. Again, I'll show you that in 1 second. That's all the controls, and you've got an output here which will go into your next pedal, or you can run it straight into the PA system. So what I've done is I've created a loop on my Aeros loop station, just some basic chords. This is the anthem with the mic on full, and it's going in, and I'm going to show you what each control does. Obviously, we have the mute control. I've disabled that, and the reverb is currently off. So I'll put everything to flat here, and the first thing I'll show you is the gain control and how I would set it. So imagine I'm playing my guitar right now. So it's kind of quiet, right? It's kind of quiet. And you can see that peak is not flashing at all. So what you do is you turn up the gain. It's flashing, you see that? If I go up even higher, it's flashing a lot. So you want to get it so it's flashing on the loudest points. There. And then back it off just a touch. So it doesn't really flash at all. Maybe if it flashes on the loudest strum, that's okay. But that's good. So you can see I've just added some gain there. I've gone from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So that's done its job right away. The input impedance is corrected and the gain has been boosted. That's great. That's really the job of the preamp. And remember, the anthem is already an active preamp on maximum volume, and I still wanted some more gain from this. I'm going to get a much louder and cleaner signal now. All right, to the left of that is our polarity. Let's take a listen to what happens when we change that. Please wear headphones and listen carefully. Some of these controls will be more obvious at loud stage volumes than with headphones. So I heard that there was a slight difference in bass response. It's very hard to hear even with headphones on. When you're on a stage, you'll hear it. And like I said earlier, if you get feedback, that will often fix it. So it's a great tool to have. I've left it in the position that I felt had the most bass response because with headphones, I'm not worried about having a problem with feedback. To the left of that is our notch. Again, this will be more useful on a loud stage, but I can still demo it here. You'll hear me as I sweep through the frequencies with this rotary control, and you'll hear the tone change as some frequencies are removed. Check it out. So you could hear there on one of the chords, when I turned it on, the low end really cut out as it was notching out that frequency. Again, I have a lot of problems, especially with a K and K type pickup on a B, a C, a C sharp, a D. I can use this notch to take out one of those frequencies that's feeding back the most. And it's very narrow. It doesn't really affect the tone. Of course, it does affect the tone slightly, but it's a great way to stop that frequency from feeding back. So between the polarity and the notch control, you've got a lot of anti-feedback control there. The tilt can also be used for that, but the tilt is really for the overall EQ of your tone. Let's check out the tilt control. I'll start in neutral and I'll work my way through the whole range of motion. So that has a lot of control, right? And like most acoustic effects, I would never use it on 100% one way or the other. But you notice when I turn it up even to 1 o'clock, it really cleans up the tone. And this is where EQ is really useful for me. When I play at home at low volumes, you'd assume you wouldn't need this stuff. Actually, I find I need it more. This is what happens when you play at home. You have your acoustic amp set up and you're playing, and you tend to hear a lot of low end from the guitar itself, especially if you're playing a full-size dreadnought or something like that. And then the tone you hear through your amp can sound too muddy, even if you have an active preamp on the guitar with tone controls. Like on my Cole Clark guitar, where there's treble, middle, and bass, sometimes it's still not bright enough because I'm hearing that low end from the guitar. So something like a tilt control is really useful because you can set the guitar how you want it, and then if the volume you're playing at is too dull, you can just turn up the tilt to compensate for the room you're playing in. Remember, EQ isn't just about shaping the sound of your preamp in the guitar. Sometimes the room affects things as well. In fact, it always affects things. So I love the tilt control for playing at low volumes because I can add the high end and remove the low end that I'm hearing from the guitar itself. Of course, that does mean when you record it, your recordings are very thin. Another reason to wear in-ear headphones. You'll also use this on stage because maybe on stage when you're playing at a very loud volume in a room, it's too bright, in which case you can turn it down. It will lower the trebles and raise the low end. So this is a great control if you're new to EQ and you don't want to mess around with a 3 or 4 or 5 band EQ. This is a great quick control to use. I think this pedal is really suited to someone that doesn't want to go down the digital multi-effects route, but also doesn't want a bunch of controls on a preamp pedal. I think this is great for those kind of players. So I like having the tilt up there. I've got polarity in this position, I've notched there, and I've done quite a bit of tone shaping to my original signal. Pretty subtle, but sufficient, which is what I like with acoustic guitar. I don't like to radically change the sound of my acoustic guitar. I just like to enhance it and kill the feedback. Okay, last but not least, the preverb part, the reverb, is along the top. I shall show you the 3 different types and some different settings. I'll do pretty extreme settings so you can hear them. Again, I never want to use too much reverb on my tone. It sounds like this. You hear the tails at the end there? I really noticed it when I turned it off. I think the best acoustic effects, in my opinion, are the ones where you play for a while, you turn them off, and you notice a huge difference. When you were playing them, you didn't notice a difference, and you wondered if you wasted your money, and then you turn it off, and you think, wow, that was doing a lot, but without realizing it. And I think that is a great sign for acoustic guitar pedals. So, obviously, don't use too much reverb as always, but I really like this setting here. What I did was I had a long tail, which really filled up the tone. The damping is at maximum, which makes those tails a bit duller and not so bright, so they're more subtle. And then the level is whatever level you want to have it at. And I ended up really liking this number 3. I think 2 is room. and you've got hall and plate, I would just audition them and choose the one you like the best. I tend to like kind of a plate or a hall, which is very long and lush, to fill up the sound of the guitar, to make it sound bigger than it is. So I think the reverb is really great. For most people, this is all you need, isn't it? When you play acoustic, you just want something that will mute your signal, give you reverb, give you a nice strong level, and you're good to go. Now, having said that, there are some features here that I personally would like to see, but remember, the thing about these pedals is they're so small, you can't possibly have every feature, and the features that I want may not be the features that you want. My advice to you, if you're shopping for a preamp pedal or any pedal, is to decide what features you definitely require. As I said earlier, I thought I didn't need a mute button. It turns out I do. For reverb, I would probably not use that button. I would leave the reverb on a low setting at all times. Having said that, if my mixer had reverb, I'd do the opposite. I'd leave a reverb at a low level on the mixer and use a stronger reverb here for my solo. So I would use it. But that's not how I would use it right now with my other gear that I currently own. So it really depends what other gear you own. I personally would have not had the reverb button. I would have had a button for a solo boost, maybe an adjustable 8 dB solo boost for fingerpicking or solos. Again, that's just my preference, and I have other pedals that do that anyway, so it's not a deal breaker. But just think about, does this have the features you need? I think the actual sound of it and the preamp and the reverb part of it are really, really, really well done. I'm very impressed. Like I said, it makes my guitar sound bigger and fuller without changing the tone, and I think that's really important. So I think this is a great option to consider. Like I said, there's so many preamps out there, but this is a very well-made pedal. And I want to say thanks to Fender, first of all, for supporting me and allowing me to review the pedal, but also for making products for acoustic musicians. There are not enough products for acoustic players. There's so many for the electric guitar world, and Fender are doing us a great job here with the Acoustasonic guitars, the Smolder distortion pedal, and now the acoustic preverb. And I can't wait to see what they come out with in the future. So if you're looking for a preamp, I strongly recommend you consider this one. I'll put my affiliate links to everything I mentioned today below in the comments. And do let me know if you're using one of these, what you think of it. And also if you're using another preamp, let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts and opinions. Until next time, take care, be well, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.